if you can't find me, you may never wanna find me again. 'Cause people don't understand. People don't understand. People like me.
What up, lovely people? It's Tuesday night again, and we are here for another episode of the Barroom Podcast here on a Tuesday night. And I got my, I don't know if I can keep calling you guys lovely, because I mean, let's be completely honest here, but I got my class of very close internet friends here with me once again tonight. We're going to start off with our good buddy, Mr. Rob Motto, who's somewhat center square tonight. How you doing, Rob?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm just chipper.
I love the new background, man. It works for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the new and improved sober Rob, by the way. So how's that been going for you?
It's a day by day process.
You'll get there. And then joining us is our residential Jets fan / human sufferer, Cool Classic Cage. How you doing today, Jay?
Well, I mean, hey, I at least have the Jets to look forward to because the Mets are fucked. It's crazy because like. There was a chance, man. At least on paper.
Was there though? Was there really a chance?
Yes. Or on paper, statistically, they had a good team. But then, like any other, New York team with Ets in their name, it seems as though injury follows and essentially alleviates any potential chance that the Mets had. So, I mean, at least, hopefully. The Jets on paper could be competitive, but we'll
let's just put it this way: the Challenger looked good on paper until
I feel
Yeah.
that the NBA and the NHL missed opportunities with words that have ETS in them for their team names.
There's going to be some talk about the NBA later tonight. We'll hold that off for a bit. Also joining us here tonight, someone who won't show her face on our show, but we'll have no problem doing it on everybody else's show, is Sam Johnson. How you doing?
Good. But I will say, like, this is later in the day. This is past my bedtime. And if I were to show my face right now, YouTube would take down the stream just for like violating some kind of community standards.
Oh my god.
That's just not nice.
And someone who's taking time away from his day, I think he's on day 3 of his Thor review, is Mr. Orange Hat Reviews. How you doing today, Orange?
I'm good. How are you all doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I think everyone's doing mostly well for the most part here. I mean, we're here. We're all here to laugh and be angry like we usually do on a Tuesday nights. And joining us in the chat this week is Zio Dozer. I know there was a few people who I forgot to mention last night on the movie review show because we were just trying to get the hell out of there. So we'll mention you guys here tonight. Oh, no, God. Neo's got another one of these. So hold on. I got to actually read now. So
no, jeez.
Ladies and gentlemen, before the show begins, we're going to show you the greatest thing your eyes have ever beheld. There were kings, queens, and gods and goddesses of the world they knew. But they come from the internet space merely to show off the insanity of Hollywood, a show to gratify your curiosity. Ladies and gentlemen, the Barroom Podcast, the 10th wonder of the world. King Kong reference. Boom. Also, they get the 9th wonder of the world because, yeah, I mean, China, she has enough problems. We're not going to mention China on this stuff.
Oh my god.
So Neo's joining us here tonight. Vanya, I can only assume that that's how you pronounce your first name. Vanya. I'm just gonna skip at that.
He's one of mine.
Joining us here tonight. Duke is also back with Desi Tukma, which is look, you guys, I already have hard enough time pronouncing English words. You're trying to get me to do foreign words too. Delbafet is here tonight, joining us in the chat. If you could any Hindu god, I don't know. Why
They're all freaks. Why would you want to be a Hindu god? They're all freaks.
Yeah, we know. Cassie's going to be in the chat.
Is a freaking freak, except for the main god.
Yeah, all the pagan ones and all the other false ones. We'll get to that later on. Alex vs. Evil joining us here tonight. Drax the Clown saying, "What up, buddies? What up, you guys doing tonight?" My Astros have been screwed by injuries and awful contacts have been. Well, I mean, that and you cheated, so I mean, just count your blessings and take what you got. Spencer's joining us in the chat tonight. Yeah. Astros, the Padres fan over here, long-suffering Padres fan. We'll never surpass the 1998 season. It'll just never happen. That'll be the one good season that we ever had, was getting swept by arguably the greatest team ever assembled in 1998. Yeah. So. What else we got here? It said, question came to mind last night. Are you watching any sort of sci-fi series that you like, being earnest, not making fun? I guess he's figuring out if you have any sci-fi interests. Do you? There, Rob?
I mean, look, when it comes to science fiction, I certainly, there are movies I really like in the genre. Usually they're not part of franchises, but they're series. But, you know, like just off the top of my head, The Day the Earth Stood Still, 2001, you know, I mean, The Thing. I mean, that's more horror, I guess. But there are movies with science fiction in them that I really like. So I even think I have a list on my letterbox you can check out if you're curious. But yeah, I'd have to think about it a little bit more. But those are certainly movies that come to mind.
Letterbox, I remember that place. Yeah. Tactus Jones asks, aren't there like 50 million Hindu gods? I'd say it the same way that I would people describe like college quarterbacks when you're playing college football. If you have two quarterbacks, that means you don't have one. So that's what way I would look at it. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, look.
Every polytheistic culture has a pantheon. Let's just say that.
And then, so joining all you guys here tonight, we'll remind you that next week's show, next Tuesday night, our good buddy, or at least my good buddy, I'm not sure if he knows any of you people, but my good buddy, Chris Gore, is going to be joining us next week on the Barroom Podcast. We're going to be talking about his Attack of the documentary he's been working on. I know it's available right now. I'll send you guys the link for it later on in the show. But we're going to talk about the little G4 news and maybe ask him some questions about kind of the fall of the original G4. Not the one with Frost and all that other stuff that happened. We're going back to like the mid 2000s here about how that G4 rose and fell pretty quickly in my estimate. So yeah, and Draxacrown said, and Greek gods are pretty gay. Well, I mean, you're not entirely wrong there, so we'll have you there.
They're incestuous as the Greek gods, but all the freaking polytheistics were.
Yep, we'll talk about that, and they probably weren't black either. So, but let's go ahead and start the show off hot, because I figured you guys, I guess the reception that I've gotten, so you like when you get the angry topics out of the way early instead of like ending on the angry topics. So we're gonna start off with Hollywood going all in on drag queens. So I don't know if you guys have noticed this, especially in the last week or so. There's been a lot of drag queen content on television because apparently the word has been given out that if there's anyone who needs our support and backing right now, it's not the children, it's the drag queen. So Hollywood has set aside a group of mega donors for this I guess we'll call this a telethon to support drag across the country. Now, what's been happening, in case you've been living under a rock here for the last few months, is that parents are getting increasingly frustrated with the fact that these drag queens and other LGBTQ activists seem to want unabashed attention to their children, and they don't want these people around their kids anymore. And they see that as, oh, you guys are banning drag like you did years ago. Yeah, I wonder why those laws were instituted years ago in the first place. But there's a whole lot to dig in from this story, so let's start off here. This was a couple of days ago, so this was kind of how everything started off here. It says several drag stars and allies. I hate when people use the word allies. I really do. It just annoys the crap out of me. Live and pre-tape appearances on Sunday on the Drag Isn't Dangerous telethon. So this is a response to states like, Tennessee, Texas, I think Oklahoma just passed one about how they're basically banning drag queens from having access to children and stuff like that. So they can't do these drag shows in front of young kids anymore, and of course they're really upset about it. That's a shocker. But yeah, a list of drag queens here have been announced for this thing, and a bunch of Hollywood celebrities have also been announced for this. Charlize Theron, Melissa McCarthy, Billy Eichner, Ali Wong, Adam Lambert, Amy Schumer, Jesse Eisenberg, Leslie Jones, Margaret Cho, Elizabeth Banks, Kelly Osbourne, all the usual suspects you see here, all making an appearance in defense of drag. and especially access to drag with children. Said the recent demonization of drag culture has been greatly upsetting and completely shocking to me. This is Jesse Eisenberg, by the way. I have had a great pleasure to get to know many drag performers, including one of my idols, the incomparable Trixie Mattel, which I believe was the one that was up here. I'm not going all the way back; that's too much work. Over the last several years, and this is everyone who has been part of this telethon they did several days ago. So yeah, this has been I guess front loaded by Hollywood, all these big time Hollywood executives. Here we have one of the co-founders of one of these drag organizations. We're sick of it. These bans are not just about trans people or drag performers. It's about systematic subjugation of the LGBTQ people. Through the Drag's Not Dangerous campaign, we will show you that drag performers are not dangerous groomers, sexual deviants, criminals, or whatever the latest evangelical slur is. Well, I got a story that may not back that side of the story up. We have the ways, awareness, and funds to make a difference in the lives of LGBTQ people who are under attack. So I'm going to go ahead and show you just some of the headlines here from this event over the last couple of days. Charlize Theron, who, if you don't remember, Charlize Theron about 4 years ago did some kind of interview where she was complaining about the fact she's like 45 years old and still single. But in the same interview, she talked about how she adopted an African child who was like 3 years old at the time, who apparently told her that he was trans. So now she's raising this 3-year-old, or who I guess is like 5 or 6 now, as a trans kid. So she's supposed to be like the mother of trans kids. And one of the things she said during this event, that she will vow to F up anyone who dare tries to F with LGBTQ people. So the copy her words here. He says, "We love you, queens. We're in your corner. We got you. And I will fuck up anyone who tries to fuck up anything with you guys." There are so many things hurting killing our kids. We all need to see what I'm talking about. It ain't no drag queen. Well, I mean, not if you're counting what happened in Nashville. Because I've seen drag queen lip sync for her life. It only makes her happier. It only makes you love more. It only makes you a better person. That's not the only story that came out of this whole thing. If you guys remember, Marisha Gay Harden, who's an actress who's just been around forever, came out with the story that all 3 of her kids are members of the LGBTQ community now. So I believe she says here on this story that all of my children are queer. My eldest is non-binary, my son is gay, and my youngest is fluid. I don't know what the hell that means, but apparently all of her kids are in this community. And these are my kids that I teach. They teach me every day about drag community, things of that nature. Here's another story. Yeah, there's multiple stories here. American Dad TBS were celebrating drag queens by honoring the space alien from, what was it? Yeah, the American Drag Show. So there's just one like after another, like just drag queens on your television set. You can't really escape them if you're watching any of the major networks. Here's another one from the MTV Movie Awards recently that decided that Scream 6 was the movie of the year not too long ago. They were on television, I guess, slamming the laws that have been passed around. They're very, very upset that people are getting very, very sick and tired of drag queens. Now, I do have another part of this story that I'm going to talk about here towards the end, but I'm going to go ahead and start off this one hot with you, Orange. What is your thoughts about all of these, all of the drag propaganda now? It seems like they're being very weaponized now. It doesn't feel like an organic movement anymore. Do you agree with this?
Yeah, I think that normal, healthy people, adults that is, do not get angry that they can't talk to 5 to 9 year olds about sex. Predators and perverts do. As for Charlize Theron saying she's gonna fuck somebody up if they don't endorse this kind of shit, bitch, bring it on. I'll fuck you up if you come near my kids with this shit, or if you come near my my families and their younger kids and whatnot,
or anybody else's kids. How about that?
Exactly.
Community.
How about that too? Because honestly, I was not alive during this time, but I do remember hearing about it. That when there was a predator lurking in a community, the entire community came up and they made sure that that person knew full well you are not welcome in this community. And if they had to, I also remember back in like 1800s, they fucking ran your ass out of town because you were a deviant. Or they straight up freaking, that. But I'm telling you right now, all of these pedophiles, and I'm just going to call it as it is, folks. Every one of those freaking celebrities are pedophiles because they want your kids indoctrinated with sexualized themes. And if you don't believe me, go back to 2018 when they had that kid dancing in a gay bar taking off layers of clothes for adult gay men while they threw cash at him. And then he was hailed as a hero by the sicko Michael Strahan. So yeah, tell me how it's not sexual. Tell me how this is not sexual. You see it, or there is more than enough evidence all throughout Twitter, all throughout YouTube, all freaking viral videos of these sick fucks going around twerking, having boobs out, and flashing their ass in front of kids' faces.
Yeah.
Tell me how this is not sexual. You all are full of shit if you think otherwise. So yeah, those celebrities, Charlize, maybe you should have fucking stayed in Africa, because honestly, you're.
Is it racist to tell Charlize Theron to go back to Africa? Is that
no?
It's
fucking is not. It's not racist to tell anybody to fucking go back to Africa.
By her rules, no, right?
She's a white lady. Go back, because honestly, I am so sick of these people freaking saying that this shit is okay. If your fucking family wants to be a family of freaks, let it be a family of freaks. And yes, I am not using it in a derogatory term. I'm using it in its definitive term, because I actually believe in using words in their original definitions. A unusual or freakish manner. So yeah, Marcia Gay Harden, your kids are a bunch of freaks. Charlize Theron, you gonna try fucking somebody up? Bring it, bitch. I have no fucking compunctions about beating somebody down if they come at me, be they man or woman.
Hey, Charlize will fuck you up. I mean, she has a history of fucking people up, like her adopted son. So let's not pretend like she can't do it.
Hey, I have a question here. Either. Doesn't it seem like there's a trend with celebrities and their kids? You know, Jamie Lee Curtis has I'm not sure what to call it, trans or gender fluid person. You know,
they're all endorsing this fad.
You know, you have Dwayne Wade. You know, you have Dwayne Wade. You have Marcia Gay Harden now. Charlize Theron adopted a kid that she's raising as trans or whatever. And it's just like, it's always it's seemingly people who have the resources to actually invest in this stuff, but it's almost like they're treating their kids like, you know, a token, like they're just they're like they're awful stage mothers or something. And just like, I don't get it. I don't understand it, other than just promoting it as like, oh, this is a normal everyday thing, when it's not.
And like I said, just the whole argument here is completely disingenuous. They're making it seem like all of a sudden people are just banning drag because they're wearing makeup and wearing women's clothes. Like, drag queens have been around forever. I'm not sure if you guys know this. Like, RuPaul's show's been on for like 30 years. Like, drag is nothing new. It's been around forever. The problem is, and they don't want to talk about it, is that you guys are getting closer and closer to children, and people are noticing it, and people are pushing back on it. So now you want to sit here and act like, oh, it's just the drag community in general that you guys were about. No, we want you to stay away from kids.
I mean, look, and this goes back, if you really want to go to like the first pop culture thing that even, you know, that was big, was the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is a movie I saw on Comedy Central growing up. It's just a fun, silly musical. There's nothing else to that. But we've moved past that. We've moved past like just, you know, sort of having fun examples of drag in pop culture to why is this everywhere? Why? And I don't even care what adults do. I don't care. It's none of my business. When kids get brought into it, it's like, okay, parents, where are you? Where are you? Because it's making me feel incredibly uncomfortable. Now, maybe it's being shoved in my face to make me feel that way, but the how many events there have been and how many have been like caught on camera and stuff, and the stuff I've seen, which is just a tad, if not very disturbing. It's hard to not say, okay, this is weird, and there's something's not right. This is not natural.
Before I shove this over to Johnson here, because I know she's going to have a lot to say about this, so I'm going to go back to a story that I actually wrote for Bounding about a year ago. Actually, this was in response to Discovery Plus's Generation Drag, where they were. This is when this whole thing kind of started, even though it was a little bit beforehand. When it was like, yeah, let's normalize the interaction between drag queens and children. This is the show that they used to I guess jumpstart this whole movement. And I want to go down here because people want to pretend like that there's no real connection here between the influence that these drag queens have with children. But keep in mind, on this show that I believe like the youngest kid was somewhere like 10 years old. It was like 10 to 17 like years old. And you're basically dealing with like, their parents, and they're talking about their testimony about how they became quote unquote drag kids, right? Every single one of them, and I'm not lying, if you want to take a bullet and watch the show yourself, almost every single one of them said that, hey, they were watching RuPaul's Drag Race, or they were watching some kind of drag TV show, and that was essentially their gateway into the LGBTQ community. And there was one story which I found very disturbing, is that it was one kid. I can't remember the exact name of this kid. It was almost like a year ago, but it was in like one of the earlier episodes. This kid probably had to be no more than like maybe like 12 years old. Very, very young kid, but obviously very, very effeminate and very, very gay. Let's just call it what it is. And he's being mentored by these two drag queens. Both of them are, not even exaggerating, about 50 years old. So you got two 50-year-old men in makeup with this young kid, and they're literally teaching him how to, what's the best way to describe this, to walk down with like high heels and like an over sexualized like manner on the show, right? This is all supposed to be like laughed at. It's like all funny games, like, oh, this kid is learning. It's like, do you not see the freaking problem of 50-year-old men grooming, literally by their own admission, grooming young children into an over sexualized medium? Like, this is what they tried to, and then here we are a year later, and people are finally pushing back against it, and laws are now being created about this, and now Hollywood wants to go like, oh, we need to protect the drag queens because they're the real victims here. Johnson, what do you think about this whole nonsense?
I've explained it as a mechanic class to my children.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I saw a post the other day on Facebook. It said drag is an art form, or whatever. It's like, well, so what? Blackface can be considered an art form too. And the double standards that people have for things, and we talk about the evolution of these things, and it's like, here's the thing, is like, as like an adult, if you wanted to do this, that's like your prerogative, okay? But these are children, and you shouldn't be exposing children to things that are inappropriate. Like, I have children. I know that I know that they don't understand certain things, but you can, you don't have to look very far. Even in Hollywood, it's like Rob said, it's like, are there any good parents in Hollywood left? And Hollywood is really over sexualized a lot. You can see things, even as an adult, like I have people that work for Hollywood, that's like in my circle of friends and stuff. And you can see that there are effects from being in a lifestyle that is like just highly sexualized.
Yeah.
And, and it's not even like, I mean, it's adult stuff. Like, you see a lot of men, for example, that work in the industry, there's a lot of temptation to cheat on their wives, and a lot of them have cheated on their wives. That's hard, to like, that's damaging to your marriage, that's not good. And most of the people that I've met that do things like this, that they participate in drag shows, or they don't have a particular opinion of it or whatever. I mean, most of them, like, they've got their, like, I went to counseling, okay, quite a bit, okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, I would recommend, here's a good therapist for you. And I remember the last trans person that I talked to was one of my former coworkers. And, like, I had just met her, and like two conversations later, she was telling me about her psychological trauma from her parents, like, splitting up and being put up for adoption. And it's like, I don't think anybody wakes up and says, "Oh, I want to be a drag queen today." I don't think a
No.
healthy, well-adjusted person wakes up and thinks that. And I especially don't think that children wake up and think that.
Yeah, a couple of quick notes here. This is from the article that I wrote a year ago about this show, Generation Drag, which is still on Discovery Plus, by the way. But literally on the show, the older men were called drag moms, and they were literally teaching a 12-year-old boy to walk around in platform heels wearing knee-high socks and skirts, and no one saw anything wrong with this. This just went straight to air. It's like, oh yeah, this isn't going to raise any red flags with anyone whatsoever. And then another thing, you want to talk about, one thing I noticed about this show is that they tend to go after people who come from pretty broken homes or pretty screwed up families where there's clearly something missing there. I go back to a story that Rose McGowan talks about. We all know Rose McGowan has a host of problems, right? But she talked about this in her younger years where she didn't have the best upbringing growing up. And at one point she was a teenage runaway, and her only mentors in her life were drag queens in Portland, Oregon. And that's what kind of what helped her raise her in her older teen years. And like I said, was that exactly a shining example of someone who's well adjusted? Probably not. But I mean, it's like people, I don't want to just give them the benefit of the doubt that they just don't see it. I have to believe that they're just intentionally trying to be evil at this point. It's like I said, once it's a coincidence, twice it's an occurrence. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll say I'm sure there are lots of people that do this just for fun, and there are some people that like enjoy the thought of mentoring someone, especially if you don't have children of your own to contaminate.
Yeah.
But I mean and the postmodern mindset says there's no absolute truth. Your truth is your truth, and nothing is wrong. And choices like this are easily justified by personal pleasure, affluence, clout, power, even. Like for Charlize Theron, I mean, this is kind of like the one thing that's guaranteed to get her some attention,
Mm-hmm.
So hate to be that cynical about it, but if you're used to getting attention all the time and then you suddenly don't get attention all the time,
and then she wonders for whatever reason she can't keep a man. It's a shocking. Okay, I can figure out exactly what the issue is.
Well, her whole public persona is as a bitch. I mean, if you talk to not that Hollywood goes around trashing each other, but there's multiple occurrences of her on set being difficult. Remember the thing with her and Tom Hardy where she was basically felt intimidated and threatened that he was there for Mad Max Fury Road, and this is a person that does not seem very well put together. I liked her earlier in her career, but she's ever since Atomic Blonde and Mad Max Fury Road, she's become just this uber masculine, annoying Hollywood personality. So what she's saying here is incredibly obnoxious, but I'm also not surprised with the stuff she's been saying recently.
Yeah, this is from 2019 because I found my old article on Society Reviews. This is what she said then. Is that talking about a 3-year-old that she adopted, by the way. She said, "I thought that she was a boy," she said, "until she looked at me and she said, well, at 3 years old, I'm not a boy. So there you go. I have 2 beautiful daughters, and just like any parent, I want to protect them and I want to see them thrive." Keep in mind, they're both adopted. It's not even her old kids. And they were both born exactly who they are and exactly where the world... both of them find themselves as they grow up and who they want to be. So this was a 3-year-old who told her once that I'm not a boy. She said, "Yes, you're trans now." And now she's raised as a trans kid. And somehow 47 years old, still single. I don't know what you guys are waiting on.
This
Charlize
is the
Theron has a
problem.
bad case of... Sorry. Go ahead, Cass.
Go ahead, Cassie.
This is what happens when you have someone who's mentally ill raising, children when they clearly should not be. I think it is worth noting, and CS definitely brought up a good point, that when it comes to blackface, that is obviously offensive depictions of black people. Whereas, when it comes to the drag queen thing, it's offensively bad depictions of women usually, and the fact that one is defended and one is absolutely completely just trashed. Is problematic. I think that both should be trashed at this point. And the fact that they do use this colorful look of being overly eccentric in order to sort of get children interested in this honestly ridiculous like lifestyle or sideshow attraction and actually make it seem as though it's serious in any way, shape, or form. If this is what you do as like a little joke, that's one thing. But when this is adamantly being forced upon a society of relatively normal human people, like not weirdo Hollywood freaks, then it becomes problematic. And I think that we need to really separate the lines of like regular average human being and Hollywood freaks, because that's what they really are. They don't have any they throw stones from glass houses. That's really all that they do. What they do on a daily basis is completely devoid from regular average everyday human interaction, and that should be noted. These people don't have a general sense of regular society. A lot of them do need a lot of mental care, no doubt, and they're not getting it because they feel as though they feel as though with all the reinforcement of you're completely fine, oh, this is completely fine to have this thought process, that they think that we're the weird ones and that they're completely normal. And that's the true irony of it all. A lot of these people need mental help. A lot of these people are responsible for other human beings when really they're irresponsible, they're juvenile, they're disgusting. They have no self-respect at all, let alone to actually take care of another human being and instill self-respect in these young people. No, they're not capable of that. And at the end of the day, a lot of these people are Epstein Islanders or know of Epstein Islanders and don't say anything. So the fact that they actually have the opportunity to sort of mold general society in the way that they see fit, no, I reject it adherently.
Yep.
Well, and like there are things too that are other forces at play. Like I mentioned a lot of like getting attention and stuff, and like having these like tokenized children. Like a lot of things that make your life meaningful aren't necessarily things that you would find if you have a large like audience before you. Like most people that have stable, meaningful lives are people that are secure in their relationships with like a close knit community, for example. And if Hollywood is your community, for one thing,
probably in trouble.
There's that. And then the second thing is like how many of your relationships are genuinely stable to begin with. I mean, like that's kind of like that's something that I would look at it. It's like how many friends do you actually have? Like if you were in a hospital and you were going through your phone, who would answer if they were trying to call people, who would answer and then be worried about you?
I don't know why you're talking about me, CS. That's really rude.
There's no need for personal attacks here.
You can put my number down, Rob.
Well, let me hop over to this next story because this kind of goes into what we're talking about here. So Evangeline Lilly, who has gotten upset with the woke crowd on multiple occasions here over the last couple of years. If you remember, this really started right at the beginning of COVID, where she had initially decided that she was going to stay at home with her father, who was battling cancer at the time, and everyone just completely slammed her. It's like, why are you standing next to that person? He's high risk. Like, you need to go away. It's like, dude, if my dad dies during this whole thing, it's like I'm gonna spend as much time with him as I possibly can. I'm not just gonna sit at home and be afraid like a lot of you guys did and then pass away and be like, oh yeah, there's 6 months with my father that I'll never get back. So she was like, no, I'm gonna stay with my dad. It's like, that's what I want to do. Then came the mandates. She started speaking out about the vaccine mandates and the COVID mandates and all that stuff. And people labeled her anti-vax because of that. And then people tried to attack her character because of that. So now she's coming out against essentially what Hollywood, more specifically, has been doing over the last few years, which is putting women in the role of men, putting men in the role of women, and then celebrating it, right? So she's asking the question, why is it that we seem to be celebrating this in our society right now? So the Ant-Man star Evangeline Lilly says a society applauds men wearing makeup and housework but shames women for it. This was taken to social media on Friday to rebuke modern society's expectation of androgynous behavior, villainizing masculinity and applauding femininity in men, vice versa for women. Why are we only applauding masculinity in women and villainizing it in men? And why are we only applauding femininity in men and debasing it in women? She asks. And this is a caption for a photo where she was in Egypt. Or I guess it was, yeah. So here's the full caption here. It said, why can't we allow all for it? Why do we need to feel the need to vilify a man for wearing knicker boots while picking up or driving a pickup truck, or not being afraid to punch somebody in the face? But if they're a woman, it would be the epitome of cool. Why is it that a man who loves makeup, cries easily, and stays at home to tend to domestic responsibilities, but a woman who does the same is seen as pathetic? Why is this a truly revolutionary act as old a time? Do not judge Jesus, Buddha, Tao, etc. He says, teach. It said to each who they are, and let us teach grace and charity above all things. She continues by saying that these overarching ideas are far simpler and more effective than trying to juggle a minutia of judgment. They are perfect. They said there are ideas that protect us from the accesses from each person's vices while still allowing expression of themselves. Grace, charity, the cornerstones of a thriving society, and should not be abandoned. We need, it said, we need them like we need democracy, justice, and peace, and without them, we can't have democracy, justice, and peace. So this is her full post that she posted here. Like I said, in the woke Hollywood circle, she hasn't exactly made too many friends. She hasn't made too many friends with some of the statements that she made, because she's not all in on the agenda that they're pushing in Hollywood at the moment. There's people talking about that they're just going to get rid of her entirely out of the Ant-Man franchise. I think that franchise might be dead anyway. We'll talk about that later on in the show. I'm going to start off with Rick, who hopefully we've been paying attention this whole time. What do you think about Evangeline Lilly's comments?
They're absolutely right. I have no idea what it is, but they're absolutely right.
Nice go. Nice save.
Thank you.
You sure they're not alt-right?
Well,
No, because that would be
don't-
rad.
I don't know. I mean, I just found out that I'm a member of the master race. Like, it's amazing. Mexicans are now,
White
also
supremacists.
neo-Nazis. Yes.
I mean, Cubans were white supremacists last year when they were voting for DeSantis, and now the Mexicans have been labeled white supremacists now too. So yeah, apparently it's spreading. I mean, I'm assuming the Puerto Ricans are going to get their chance here. Maybe the
Cubans have been
Dominicans.
white since Scarface. Let's be honest.
Yeah, man.
Rob, what do you think of Lily's comments here?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely a fan of what she's saying here. I'll be completely honest with you guys. I have no idea who Evangeline Lilly is. Now, maybe I've seen her in something. I don't know who she is. She's
Yeah,
great.
you didn't watch Ant-Man 3, did you?
No. So that's great what she's saying. Absolutely. It's common sense, very, very logical. I have no problems with it. She's gonna get a raft of shit though, because it's look, I've noticed this trend the last 5 years or so where masculinity is demonized and feminine, and it's like they want women to be men and men to be women. It's like it's reverse, and it's like it's just chaotic. Which whatever, it's just nonsense to me. But yeah, I definitely support what she's saying here. It's this trend that we're seeing, and it's really troubling. Because it's like that's not inherently true. And I say this as a man who is incredibly sensitive, and I probably cried than the average man. And I still understand that like most men are not don't have my disposition. You know what I'm saying? And so if I was I'm obviously not a woman, so I can't compare that side to it. So, but yeah, I'm definitely supportive in what she's saying here.
Cassie, what do you think, Miss Queen of Tomboys over here? You got to be not muted in order for people to hear you. There you go.
I mean, it's good that someone's asking questions because, at Hollywood, a lot of people just simply fall in line, and it's good to at least see that some people don't just follow the crowd and don't sell their soul out completely for money. So, I mean, it sucks that she's probably going to get axed because, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're deserving of the roles that you get, given, what you're capable of as an actor, you should get those roles and not have to be concerned with how politically motivated for Hollywood politics are you. At the end of the day, it's like a lot of these people that are for the whole drag queen situation, a lot of them say this nonsense in hopes that they will benefit financially from it, given more roles, getting into the heads of the people that pull the strings. Oh, they're into the same bullshit that we are, because that's really how it is at the end of the day. I appreciate her being honest and actually, voicing the fact that she's down to earth and proving it.
Mm-hmm.
It's rare.
Yep, and doing it in a position where, like I said, it could negatively affect her career. I mean, she is currently in the MCU until they decide to blow that whole thing up. So there is a little bit of risk to it. Orange Hat, what do you think?
I'm kind of wondering what was the tipping point for her, because, I mean, I know that she's had a square head on her shoulders for a while, where she's actually come out against the narrative at times. I mean, yes, she was one of the first celebrities to speak out against the whole COVID restrictions things, because she realized there is something kind of fishy going on. But now her speaking out against the agenda written narrative that Hollywood is starting to push, I think is actually a good thing, because it shows that not all celebrities in Hollywood are 100% batshit crazy. I mean, yeah, you still got that cactus cooch Charlize Theron, but honestly, I'd prefer Evangeline Lilly, because I've seen her since Smallville, where she had 2-bit parts in the background. And honestly, yeah, she does pretty good roles with the roles that she's in. I'm not going to lie. The writing that other people do for her is a problem. She's got good talent. However, I think that she needs the right direction. But in her personal life, where she's actually standing against this shit, good on her, because we need more of those kind of people in Hollywood. Unfortunately, she will be blacklisted.
She might already be blacklisted at this point.
I mean, shout out to her being one of the few Canadians that aren't complete total failures. So,
to answer Spence in the chat, she was in a couple episodes as background extra.
Oh, okay. I thought okay. Did she have like some lines or something?
No,
or she was just in the background.
In one episode, she came up and kissed one character, and then she was just talking to a high school friend in another episode.
Yeah, she's known for Lost. That was like her breakout kind of role.
She got her breakout in Lost after her her small bits in Smallville.
You nerds watch Smallville.
And then
I did. Hey, when
I was a
teenager, I did. I thought it was good.
That was a great show.
Okay, so Worm's going to finish the show with you guys here tonight. So. Yeah, so I mean, look, I think what happens to a lot of these people is that, they may go along with the flow for a while, but then as we see, whenever you step out at any frame with the group thing, they attack you, right? And it probably took the issue of her attacking her over the situation with her dad to be like, yeah, maybe I don't want to be on the same side as you people. If you guys are literally attacking me for spending time with my dying father during his last days, then yeah, maybe you guys have completely lost the plot here, and I don't want to be on your side. Have you think about that as a possibility?
Possibly, yeah. I think that is probably where she's going with it.
Yeah.
Well, she's getting older too.
She has millions of dollars. She could retire.
Yeah, she like the people that like speak out tend to be people that don't have a lot to lose, or they don't have as much to lose. Like I mean, most of the people that are for this stuff, like I said, they're the parents of tokenized children, and they're people that have a lot more to gain by going along with the flow. Like I don't see a lot of good Hollywood parents speaking up against it. And even if they are against it, they're not saying stuff that I've seen. So
yep. So any final thoughts on this story before we jump over to our next one?
Just don't ever become an elf.
Well, there are actually psychological studies that talk about how you get people to change their behavior in a society, and there's an example from my psychology class that I remember, where they were taught, or the students all got together and like praised this one student for wearing green. And like by the end of the semester, he was wearing green almost every day. And even if he didn't consciously know like why they were doing it or anything, that was just like, and it was just generic stuff. It wasn't like, hey, I like your shirt. It wasn't like talking about the color, like those were the rules. And so this is just something that's kind of like the power of propaganda and societal pressure. You see that too in other classic examples, like if you're told to like raise your hand for like which line is shorter, and everybody like points to the longer one and raises their hand or something, but you're supposed to go in and answer it. It's not long before you change your mind usually, unless you're abnormally strong-minded. Yeah, so Rob would not then do this.
I'm sorry. It's like, and that was COVID all over for me. It was like, yeah, I'm just not going to do it. Just not going to do it. So, and if it turns out bad for me, I made my choice, and I'll go on my way.
But Robert, if it saves just one life,
I don't care, because it's my life that I'm in control of, and I'm going to make good choices for me.
You're out there killing grandma. How dare you, sir?
And she's gonna go soon anyway. It's fine.
Let the bitch die.
Euthanasia is not far down the pipeline here. Okay, so
it's the shit they have in Canada. It's
right up.
Yeah,
it's right up in Canada.
Yeah, Canada, it's normal.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of old dying women, especially grandma, let's talk about Howard Stern here for a second. Howard Stern. Keep in mind, this guy is a complete sellout. I mean, I don't think there's any bigger example of a sellout in modern society than Howard Stern. This used to be the guy whose entire career was built on free speech and rebelling against the system. He fought the FCC when they tried to censor him from not being able to say what he wanted to say. He really literally moved to Sirius Radio so that he could have the ability to say whatever he wanted. He was King Rebel for a time. There was a time where every guy, I mean, if you're around our age, you probably listened to Howard Stern at some point of your life. And now listening to him being the guy who basically is all about Dancing of the Stars and America's Got Talent and all this other nonsense. So this is the guy who, keep in mind, for the last 3 years was literally never left his house. He was so afraid of the whole COVID pandemic that he stayed in his house the entire time. He filmed his entire show at his home, didn't speak to anyone. Everyone else had to basically do the show on like Zoom because he's so germophobic. He's such a complete hypocrite. I'm pretty sure, Rob, you remember when Opie and Anthony leaked the video of the elevator of Howard going straight to his office where no one was allowed to be on the same floor as him as he's heading into his office at Sirius. So this is the type of guy we're talking about here. But somehow he's offended because when he went to the Knicks game a few days ago, the black players didn't acknowledge him. So this became a whole thing where on his show, he cried literally like an old white Jewish woman about the fact that the black players on the team would go over to Spike Lee and they didn't say anything to him. And he felt like it was racial. So this is Howard Stern went to the Knicks and the Heat. They're the two teams playing a series right now. But he went on the whole spiel about his show, talking to Robin, his co-host, saying that the black players won't come over and say hello to me. They go over to Spike Lee and said they don't. And so Robin asked him, they don't acknowledge you at all. And then he replied that they're even sitting next to other comedians like Tracy Morgan or Chris Rock. A couple of players will come over. They'll give Morgan that bro shake and stuff. And I'm like, these guys should be they should hug me too. I mean, what am I? I grew up in a black neighborhood. You know what I mean? I mean, they should know that, but I get ignored. This is later on the show. He later said to Robin that, so I'm like, why is everything so racial now? So he literally just went on the show to complain about he's sitting at courtside and nobody is acknowledging him. He says, I got to accept, like he said, my fame is very important to me. I'll admit, I like people to recognize me. I like to think that it's the white thing, not my personality. I hope it's racial. That's all, he continued. So yeah, we all know about.
Is Howard Stern black?
No,
he's Jewish. He's extremely Jewish. Yeah.
And a fucking Karen, apparently.
Oh yeah. It's so funny because he became like this, like I guess around 2016, around Trump. He lost it. He became a lady on The View. He became like a Jewish grandmother, like, you know what I mean, character where he's kvetching about the COVID-19 and catching it, and he became a complete neurotic, a freak during this whole period. It was like, dude, you used to be the guy that stood up for free speech and challenged the FCC and pushed the envelope and was a hero to so many comedians because you said "fuck you" to the authorities and the powers that be, and he turned into the biggest fucking pussy in all existence, in all pop culture.
Well,
Didn't
Trump
he like lose his radio show for criticizing women's sports or something?
Well, I mean,
that was Don Imus.
Yeah.
Don Imus.
Well, I was just about to say he had a whole big feud with Don Imus, and now here we are years later. He's literally turned into Don Imus, unironically.
No, I mean,
those
I
nappy-headed
think,
hoes.
Trump
Okay.
and COVID broke a lot of people, and
Yes.
the only thing I remember about Howard Stern is when he made fun of the killing of Selena, and that was, and he just got such a fierce blowback that he actually did what was rare back then for him. He actually went and apologized in very bad Spanish because it was just so over. It was he angered the Hispanic, especially the Mexican American community so much. They dropped him here locally. They carried him on a station here in El Paso, and they dropped him immediately.
Yeah.
Well, not immediately, but like pretty soon afterwards because of all that. With Howard Stern, look, I'm just going to be blunt. I have a feeling that most of these basketball players, regardless of race, have absolutely no idea who he is. That it's not a race thing. It's the I don't know who you are thing.
Yeah, and by the way, J.R. Smith, who's a former basketball player, literally said this, responding to the whole thing, saying that I'm sorry, but what basketball player like today listens to Howard Stern? I don't think I've met one, black or not. So he basically saying like, dude, you're not even relevant anymore.
Exactly.
That's why nobody knows who you are.
Exactly. They know who Spike Lee is. They know who Tracy Morgan is. But they're, I mean, they might even go up to Jack Nicholson. They might know who he is. But they're not going to know who Howard Stern is.
But think about Jerry Seinfeld. I mean, maybe Jerry Seinfeld is a much bigger figure, but it's like it's the same kind of like culture, like not being culturally relevant to these people.
Exactly. So they're not going to go up to him because they simply have no idea who he is. It has nothing to do with him being white. It has nothing to do with him being Howard Stern. I would probably have a vague idea who Howard Stern is if I saw him. So this man's ego is already telling you, oh well, because I'm believe I'm the king of all media, that they have to know who he is. No, nobody knows who he is. Mr. Stern. It's not about your race. It's about that none of these kids who are probably old enough to be your grandkids have any idea who you are.
Yeah.
So please don't take offense that nobody comes up and says hello to you. I wouldn't, and well, to be fair, since I'm now part of the master race, I probably would look down on him. But
PC?
Well, not only that, there's a couple of things with Howard Stern too. Like I said, the whole thing with COVID, like the Trump stuff drove him completely over the wall. Then COVID made it even worse. I think COVID was worse on him than the Trump stuff. He was basically telling people who didn't get the vaccine that they need to die. Like literally just telling them straight up that they need to die. If you don't support Fauci, you need to die. He was saying some really vile stuff. He got into it with like Joe Rogan at one point, who Joe Rogan is respected with a lot of comedians, and they're supposed to be in the same realm. But he decided to go at war with Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan was saying things on his podcast that Howard Stern didn't like. So all of a sudden, like this guy's been literally wishing death on everyone who doesn't do exactly what he says for literally like the last 3 years. And then he comes out of his cocoon. He's sitting courtside at a Knicks game. He just expect everyone to embrace him with open arms again. And as we hadn't heard every word you've been saying for the last few years, there may be some players who don't even want to acknowledge you because you probably pissed them off too. Did you ever think about that possibly?
But the reality is, Howard Stern, you are not famous anymore. The one key thing that you are known for, you have done a complete 180 on. You are completely and totally irrelevant. What was important to society, your influence on society, you yourself disavow at this point. So you are not famous anymore. You are a fucking loser. Nobody wants to acknowledge you because you are a sellout. That is the reality of it. You're not famous. Get the fuck over it. You want your ego stroked. Well, you're going to have to rebuild your quote unquote empire because you totally just threw it out into the wind. You're worthless at this point. And that's why people will not acknowledge you. You're not going to be memorable. Because you yourself do not live in your own memory. What you once were, you no longer are anymore. So on that sense, get used to just being just another loser at an NBA game.
What is it about the NBA that just attracts all of these very curious figures? The
Cameras.
All
ones,
the absolute bags of douche.
yes, all the
Cameras.
ones that are
Yeah.
fighting with the fans, fighting with the players, who think that the players should acknowledge them. I do not understand what it is about
This
this
is why I
sport.
prefer hockey over basketball, because you know where you won't see Jay-Z and Shannon Sharp at a goddamn Rangers game. You know that much.
Stranger things have happened, but look, it really boils down to that. He's not famous. He's not relevant. These players, most of them genuinely have no idea who he is. So that's why they don't greet him. And
Yeah.
even if they did, why would they bother? Why would they bother? They're more famous than he is. So they're not going to
You know what the
associate
sad
himself
part
with
is?
the
If
joke.
he actually stayed true to himself after all these years, instead of just becoming a complete Hollywood sellout, he would probably have more respect with this generation for standing by his principles. If he didn't like, this is a guy. If you guys don't remember Howard Stern, especially like in the '80s, '90s, or even early 2000s, this was a guy who was so into free speech. He literally did multiple parodies of DMX's "My Niggas," which is still on YouTube right now, as you can find on your own dime. Like, this is how far into like the free speech platform he was at his time, and just to see what he's become, it's like, it's just pathetic. Like, you know how many people I've talked to be like, yeah, I used to love Howard Stern, I can't listen to him anymore. Like,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
that's the
We know a few.
sentiment.
Yeah, we know a few who say that, and they're like, no, he became part of the machine. He's no longer a rebel. He
Well,
is the
money
machine.
money became more important than him standing up for any kind of principles, and that's the whole thing. It's like, oh, I mean, you already had money, but you took more to basically turn your back on
Yeah.
literally everything you were. That I just don't get. I don't get it. It makes no sense.
He's one of the few guys who actually got paid a crap ton of money to have freedom of speech. Like, when he initially jumped over to Sirius, he got paid so much money for that deal because they gave him not only just, you know, his regular contract, they gave him a percentage of the sales of people who were hopping over to Sirius Radio, because he was like one of the biggest pillar on there. Like, he has like 2 channels on Sirius, so he got paid a bunch of money for basically being able to say whatever the hell he wants, and then he went the other direction for, like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I have Sirius, and I've never once. I skip over the Howard Stern channel. I would sooner listen to Spa, the New Age station, than listen to him.
Well, I mean, that's the
There's nothing of interest that he says now. What does he say now? He's no longer culturally relevant or influencing. He's up in his little cocoon, like, I guess, trapped in his little cell, metaphorical
Well,
cell,
With his
spouting-
wig.
Yeah.
Here's the deal at Howard Stern. It was okay when he was allowed to do it, but to allow other people to actually have that same freedom, that's not okay with him, especially if they go against what he deems is acceptable. So he's a fraud.
Yeah, well, and part of it too is like they talk about like rising stars and stuff, but a lot of people don't want to talk about the falling part of that. He's definitely fallen out of the limelight, and he's become the empire that he fought to destroy, I guess, and he's just fallen away, and I mean, it's kind of natural. Like, you want to hit your peak in life like as soon as you can and stay there, but a lot of people don't have the talent or the tenacity to stay there. So
Yep.
The way I see it, everybody's got to make peace with the fact that they get old. And this dude
Old and
does not want to
irrelevant.
make peace with it. He wants to hold on to that ego. He wants to hold on. It's kind of like Captain America Civil War when frickin' Scott Lang opened up his mouth in the raft. Hank Pym always said you couldn't trust a Stark. Who are you?
Yeah. He
It's
still
like-
thinks that he's the king of all media.
Exactly, and it's like, dude, you haven't been relevant since that movie that they did about you, where
Private
frickin' woman
Parts.
did,
Private Parts.
yeah, that thing, and it's like, since I didn't even know you actually were a real person. I thought you were actually related to Daniel Stern, like his dumbass brother or something, but it turns out I don't think there's a relation. Thank
No.
God, because Daniel Stern's actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
But it's seriously, dude, what the fuck made you think that that it was smart even going to an NBA game. We all know that the fucking NBA hates white people. So what were you thinking? I mean, for fuck's sake, that alone told you that you are irrelevant.
Yeah. Like I said, he lives. I mean, the dude literally lives in his own delusional world. That's what pretty much everyone who's ever been around him or worked for him said. Like, he lives in his own bubble where
He
he's
makes
created
Weird
this
Al
whole.
Well, I
look
don't
sane.
understand why he had to. I don't
Say it.
understand why he had to bring the racial element into it. So
Or because he needs to find a
'Cause
reason
his white
why.
guilt.
Yeah. Well, no, I think he has to find a reason as to why all of these black players won't go to him. Honestly, I'm not even sure that many black players would go to Robin Quivers. I mean, they might know who she is, but I find that less
oh,
likely.
see, I'd have to Google her.
See, again, I don't think any of these people, I don't think any of the NBA players know who anyone associated with Howard Stern is. So they might know who Robin Quivers is, but that's less.
We're at a point now with the NBA where the kids coming into the league now weren't even born when he went to Sirius in the first place. Like that's how much they either relevancy they have to Howard Stern at this point in time. Like, God, get over it, guy. Your time is done. To just be the 70-year-old dude who does interviews with Metallica and Robert Downey Jr. and then let that be your legacy until you die. Like that's pretty much where
Well,
you are
I guess
now.
on some level, like he is at that age where he's kind of comparable to like Dick Clark and like Bob Barker even. Like maybe he wanted to stay relevant till the very end, and it's like I don't think you have that kind of charisma or charm or.
And then let's be honest too, like the Howard Stern show when he moved to Sirius, the only reason that show was funny was because of Artie Lang. And when Artie Lang left the show because of his drug problems, that show fell off a cliff and never recovered. So yeah, that was another thing that we talked about this weekend too. So yeah, Howard Stern, your time is done. As John Cena would say, your time is up. Any final thoughts on this one before we move on to our next story?
Try to age gracefully.
Yes,
That's
take off the wig.
impossible for him. He already aged ungracefully.
All right, then let's hop over. Let's hop over to Yellowstone. So you guys been following this whole drama with Yellowstone and Kevin Costner. The story is that if you guys don't know, Yellowstone, which arguably right now is the most popular show on television, is averaging like well over 10 million viewers on cable, which is insane because people like to use the excuse that, oh no, people don't watch TV anymore. That's why all of our ratings are low. It's not because our shows are bad. It's like then Yellowstone comes around and everyone and their mother watches this show, but it looks like the show is coming to an end because Kevin Costner can't come to terms with the series creator Taylor Sheridan, who for my money is the best screenwriter in Hollywood right now. There's been a lot of things behind the scenes regarding Sheridan and Costner, but he's apparently on his way out. There's been talks that apparently his upcoming divorce has led to a lot of issues within his life. Monetary issues have led to his life. And then here we have apparently one of the reasons why he's not coming back is because he doesn't like the way that he was going to be written off the show. And until he has a satisfactory end to his character, he's not coming back. So Costner seems to be single-handedly torpedoing this show from everything I'm hearing. Kevin Costner will reportedly not commit to returning to film the final season of Yellowstone until he approves how his role will be written off the show. So this comes from Puck News, which I've heard Puck News a couple of times now. I'm not sure who's behind it, but I've heard some things both ways about Puck News, but this is their article, so I'm going to go with it here. They're reporting here that the actor is comfortable about how his John Dutton character is being written out of the franchise, and that he wants to prevent what Shonda Rhimes did to Patrick Dempsey, killing off the race car driving Grey's Anatomy character in a FU car accident. This is their direct words, by the way. I'm just putting it out there. So Yellowstone creator Taylor Sheridan may not be able to dispose of his Western-loving leading man via a kick from an angry horse. So, like I said, there's been some things going on behind the scenes here for a while. It seems like their relationship has deteriorated here. It's also being reported that Costner's relationship with the producers and Netflix executives have worsened, with evidence saying about how Paramount handled last week's announcement. The series will come to an end after season 5 without giving the leading man the courtesy of a heads up. So apparently they decided they're going to end the show without him. Costner currently earns $1.2 million per episode for this show. Like I said, it is the biggest show on cable television at the moment. But they are going to end things at the season 5 because I guess they figured that if he's not going to be around, there's no point in keeping the show going at this point. Paramount Network has revealed that the series will end in November with the release of following the release of the remaining episodes. The explosive first half of season 5 came to an end on New Year's Day, with the second half initially slated to return in June. So I know there's been some issues about like the writer's strike about whether they're even going to be able to produce those last few episodes right now. I don't know the full story on that one, but the alleged drama between Costner and Sheridan happened over the actors' filming commitments to the remaining episodes of the current season. With the show's fate seemingly in shambles, there was growing frustration on whether the cast and crew would ever return to Montana to finish shooting the rest of season 5. Beginning on May 25th, all 8 episodes of the first half of the season 5 will be available on Peacock. As for things stand, as Costner is busy working on his other projects right now. He's doing a Western movie and has yet to agree to come back and do the final episode. So this whole thing is seemingly a mess right now. So I don't know whose side you are on after reading all that. I'll start with you, Rob. What is your take on Kevin Costner starting a lot of trouble with the Yellowstone and seemingly ending the show?
Yeah, seems like a power move by Costner for whatever reason. I know that socially he's kind of moved. He said he was not political, but then he went and supported Liz Cheney, one of the only Republicans, maybe the only Republican to support the Democrats' January 6th bullshit. So
No, that was Kinzinger as well.
okay, well, see, if you don't watch the news, you're uninformed. If you do, you're misinformed. So whatever. But so I don't know if that's part of it, where he didn't like how the show's ending because he wanted more I don't know, a different ideological bent to it. If it was a creative thing, or if it just has to do with his character, meeting his demise or being at the end of the show. Because I heard they're trying to do a spinoff. They're trying to sort of do a new show going forward that'll be whenever Costner's character dies, apparently. So
I know that they've done prequels.
Yeah, no. I know that, but I actually was reading this week that they're hopefully planning a spinoff of Yellowstone. So I don't know if he's just he's just ornery about his character being killed off. I don't know. Taylor Sheridan has a really good track record, and he usually makes things that are narratively satisfying, compelling. Keeps the interest of the audience. I have not seen any of Yellowstone. It's been on my list. I will definitely get to it soon. But yeah, this just seems like a weird power struggle. Costner has been a kind of a big shot in terms of as a producer, as a director for almost 30 years, actually over 30 years, because he started as director on Dances with Wolves. So he's been able to kind of pick and choose the projects he's interested in over his career. This just seems like coming at a really bad time. The divorce, like you said, the monetary issues, and now kind of clashing with the Yellowstone producers over the last. Seems like this has been going on for like 9 months to a year. So I'll be really interested to read the book when it comes out, like what was going on at the time. But at this point, I more or less side with Taylor Sheridan just because his track record's good, and at the end of the day, he's trying to put an end to this show, and Kevin Costner's kind of being a dick.
I'm going to side with Sheridan as well, only in that this is, to me, reminiscent of the entire Chuck Lorre, Charlie Sheen brouhaha. I mean, he was the big name. He was, the main character or the big lead in that show. Once he went insane and started going after Lorre did what he could do, which is kill his character off. And I think he actually killed him off twice just to be vindictive. The character, he could be killed off. He could die off screen. I think at least last I heard, from what I understand, he's the governor of Montana. I mean, who's to say that the governor of Montana can't meet a grisly end? And it's curious, when they did one of the Brady Bunch spin-offs and they made it into a drama, Robert Reed was so cantankerous with Sherwood Schwartz that had the series continued, they were going to kill off Mike Brady, because they just tired of him and his perfectionism and criticizing the scripts for minor details that he thought that the producers were thinking it was irrelevant. With this situation, look, no star is bigger than the show. They got rid. I mean, please, they got rid of Valerie Harper on her own show. It was
Farrah
called,
Fawcett,
yeah.
Charlie's Angels after one season.
Well, she left on her own free will.
Yeah.
But Valerie Harper was fired from her own show, which was named Valerie, and yes, and then they called it Valerie's Family, and then the Hogan Family. They managed to keep the show going without the lead character in it. Kevin Costner is not. I mean, he's a star, and assuming he's a major character, but you can get rid of your major characters. A good writer will know how. Kevin Costner does not have as much power as he thinks he does. Yes, he's the director, and he's been a star for all these years, and yes, he's probably a big draw for a lot of people to Yellowstone. But you've already had the prequels. You could have a spinoff without him. He's. I'm not saying that he's in the wrong. I don't know enough to delve into these people have, but yes, but
Come on, it's fun to speculate. Speculate.
Do it.
but in this, it's Sheridan that has the upper hand. He's the creator. He's the writer. He can get rid of any character that he wants, and he can do it any way. You know, he can do it any way he wants. So Costner, he should just agree to leave. I mean, he's already going to leave. He should try to give his character some kind of dignity and close it out for the fans. And also, look, this fight minus the strike, which is affecting how this production is going. This fight is affecting the production crew, and it's affecting the other actors. They will not be able to work because one particular star is getting into a hissy fit or some sort of contest with the producer. Find a compromise. Find a way to end the show well. Leave your character with a little bit of dignity, or Sheridan could just say, "I'm going to kill you off. There's nothing you can do about it, and we're going to move on once the strike ends." So no, Costner may be in the right, but he doesn't have the power that he thinks he does.
Yep. Any other? Oh, go ahead, Rut.
Honestly, this is what happens when you have actors who have built up such a legacy and legend for themselves. This is what happens if you piss them off. Now, I'm not siding with Costner. I think that he's acting in a state of impetuous or being impetuous and whatnot. And I think that he should be a little bit more mature in this. As for Vanya talking about Matthew McConaughey, I could have sworn he was he was in politics now instead of acting. But Matthew McConaughey hasn't really been relevant since Reign of Fire. But as for, I had never watched Yellowstone, so I don't even know what the hell it's about. Some cowboy, I'm guessing. But if this writer, I think I have heard of Tyler Sheridan, although I couldn't tell you what he wrote and whatnot.
He wrote Sicario, What Wind River, what was the third? Hell or High Water he wrote.
Hell or High Water.
I mean,
Hell or High Water, Sicario
seen.
movies. I think his last movies probably should see because they're actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll have to check him out. But when it comes to the writer, and is he also the director?
I think he's the main writer. I don't think he's the director now.
Well,
Not of
whoever
the
the
show.
producer and director plus the studio, if they're all like, okay, then write his ass out. If he wants to be that big of an ass, we'll renegotiate his contract, write his ass out, we'll continue on, or we'll just end it there. This is where actors need the ego check. Your star power does not get you everything you want. Yes, you can raise a stink, but ultimately, it is the studio, it is the freaking writers, it is the directors and producers that can ultimately decide your fate. And maybe they should say, well, all right, it was a good run, Kevin, but fuck you if you're going to act this way. Do the cold shoulder thing. That will freaking work. Believe me, that is a slap in the face. That is a bucket of cold water while they're sleeping in bed. It's a shock to them if you are absolutely blunt with them. because because these freaking egomaniacs can't handle bluntness the first time.
That's true. I mean, really, Hollywood, especially in television, is littered with stars that thought they were too big for the show and they thought the show could not go on without them, but they did. Sometimes maybe unfairly, because I remember Suzanne Summers. She became the breakout star in Three's Company, but then when she asked for more money, they told her no, and then they wrote her out of the show, even though she was one of the big draw. Apologies to Joyce DeWitt and John Ritter. Same with Two and a Half Men when Charlie Sheen went completely bonkers and they wrote him out. You could write out any character. No show is immune. The worst one was probably Valerie Harper, but no, you could write out any character. Or you could have them die off screen. You could have them die in screen. You could have them move to another town. I mean, they're not indispensable. Any character on any television show or any actor on any television show, they're not indispensable. Kevin Costner is going to find that out, even despite him being an Oscar winner, despite him being well respected. He's not an exception. No one is an exception. The writer and the producers, they're the ones who hold the ultimate power. Unless the star is the producer of the show, then no. If you're just hired to perform, and you did a good
Exactly.
job, but yeah, Costner's not going to win this. He might as well just try to find a happy compromise he can live with. Otherwise, yeah, expect I believe the governor of Montana, to meet a very grisly end, and maybe the
Yeah.
writer will delight in that.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
still waiting for the third season of Mayor of Kingstown.
Good luck with that.
yeah. I mean, I've watched like 7 or 8 episodes of Yellowstone. It's really good. I've actually trying to get other people to watch it as well, along with me. But like I remember Jamie Lee Curtis, discussing some of her films, from back in the day, and the infamous scene in Halloween 2 is one that even she hated. The one where she's in a parking lot and she's like trying to get the attention of Donald Pleasance and the nurse, and she doesn't scream till after they walk into the hospital, and it's like she absolutely thought that the scene was complete garbage, and really it did play out as such, but she expresses the reality that you're just an actor and that the vision is in the hands of the director and the writers, and that's something that you have to live with as an actor. Otherwise, well, you have to take on more responsibility with the product, and Kevin Costner does not do that. And there, he's just contracted, and he's paid very well for this show. I think he makes over like $1 million an episode. That's nothing to scoff at.
1.2.
Yeah, and
yeah, I was just
No,
gonna
good,
say,
Rob.
Cassie, you're absolutely right. The sad part is Kevin Costner knows better. He knows better than to act
yeah.
like this, because he's been doing this for his career. His acting career goes back to the 80s. He's 40 years old. He's been doing this, or sorry, he's been doing it for 40 years.
Yeah, I was about to say, he wish he was 40.
Listen, most actors are very stupid. Okay, and what I mean by that is they do not have any interest in being creative in the sense of being a writer, director. There are a select few, like Robert Redford, where they take the ownership over and they make it their own. You're on Taylor Sheridan's show, and yes, you are the main character, but as Rick pointed out, any character can be written out. And especially when you're in the final season, it's like that's when shit hits the fan in most TV shows anyway. So it shouldn't come as a shock either.
Yeah, it's just strange. What is the end game in all of this? Like, why do you feel as though you need things to end on your terms when the show is indeed coming to an end anyway? And it's a shame because there is a lot of quality with this show, and ideally, as someone that does enjoy this level of entertainment specifically for a show, because this is like this is like film level quality from what I've seen of the show thus far. And I would love for the show to indeed end on the most artistically driven way possible through the writer and the director. And for, Kevin Costner's personal weird interests in how his character particularly ends up to like kind of, mess up that creative vision of how it all plays out, it's disappointing. Hopefully
Costner
they find a
should know
resolution.
better. Costner should know better because he has been a producer. He produced Dances with Wolves. I think he produced Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and was it The
Waterworld.
Postman, Waterworld. Okay, those two were terrible.
Yeah.
But he has he knows what it is to be a producer, and I don't think he would tolerate an actor, no matter how big he or she was, to hold up his production. He would say, "You're out." Because it's my money, and it's a lot of my money is riding on this project and the success. Now he's decided, oh well, I'm the big star, so I'm going to hold up production until you meet my demands. You're in absolutely very no you're I don't think you're in much position to make demands. So he should know better. He really should know better. This is, from my perspective, purely an ego thing, and it's unfortunate because, again, I go back to the people who work on this show. They need to work, and you're holding them up because you don't get what you want. That's rather low.
Star power, bitches.
I can kind of understand why he want to like approve of being written off because I think it's funny that they specifically mentioned Patrick Dempsey getting written off of Grey's Anatomy because I never watched Grey's Anatomy like a whole episode, but like I remember seeing the clips of it. I remember thinking so stupid.
You mean McDreamy? I think his name was McDreamy, right?
Yeah, McDreamy. Yeah, he was McDreamy, and there was another one called
Yeah.
McSteamy.
Yeah,
Well-
my mom is still watching Grey's Anatomy like on Netflix. It's in like its
What's her
19th
name?
season.
The
Yeah.
main character was fucking written off.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Dr. Gray or whatever her name.
Yeah.
Old school
Grey's
chick. Yeah.
Anatomy is no longer even Grey's Anatomy. It's just a fucking woe is me because abortions or because people
Is that
are
show still on the air?
Yes,
Yeah.
Ellen,
they're bitching
Ellen
about
Pompeo,
abortion.
by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I but I remember seeing that and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so bad. I can't believe somebody like wrote this.
Yes, Shonda Rhimes, who has like 4
Oh.
shows on TV right now. God, I hate
Yeah,
her.
right.
She's a good drama writer because I did watch How to Get Away with Murder for the first couple of seasons, and I thought it was funny because like oh my gosh, I can't believe this got made because all her people that were killed are like biracial people, so like she does not like biracial people. But that's another story.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry, sorry.
Not a
That's
fan
what
of
I
Derek
noticed,
Jeter
I'm
then.
like-
Okay, we got it.
You must understand, we are the most hated people of society. So
What did Halle Berry ever do to
Yeah, you're all
her?
filthy half breeds.
Well,
That's
you know, I don't.
that's why I'm pure Mexican, and that's why I'm all about white supremacy. Apparently, because I want purity.
man, the best of Mexicans
Yeah.
died with Selena. Okay, to hell with you, sir.
Well, I will not argue that she was the best of my people, but
All I'm gonna say is that we need a lot more racist Hispanic people. We need the Cubans to meet up with the Mexicans, maybe go find the Argentinians and make a whole new white Hispanic master race, because that's apparently what we're building here in America now.
well, Mengele was working on that in Argentina, somewhere in the jungles or
Yes,
Brazil.
the boys in Brazil, right?
Yeah, the boys in Brazil.
Yeah,
The
I have
rise
to
of
watch
the
that
white
soon, by the way.
Hispanic.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm non-white Hispanic, or like, no. There's non-white Hispanic and then white Hispanic, and then I'm white non-Hispanic on my tracker thing or whatever.
You could have just
But
said
yeah.
you were white. I mean, that was much
Yeah,
more
yeah,
simpler
yeah.
than what you just said.
Well, I'm trying to think of the way that they word it on all those demographic survey things.
Mhm.
Well,
So-
yes. I when I fill those out, are you Hispanic or Latino? Yes. What is your race? And I marked down white because I don't qualify for any of the others. I'm not Asian. I'm not black. I'm not Pacific Islander. So it's like by default. I would just say, look. Remember when Rob was talking about? I think Rob or Orange Hat were talking about other characters that have been killed off, or maybe it was UCS. Remember
Yeah,
in
maybe.
Downton Abbey, they killed off the guy, the new.
Oh yeah.
They killed
Yeah.
him off.
Matthew.
Though
Yeah.
in fairness, he asked to leave, and so they wrote him out that way with that car accident, because the car accident for McDreamy reminded me of the car accident for whatever the guy was. I only remember
Matthew.
Maggie Smith. I only remember, she's the only good character.
And you
Yeah.
feel free to disagree with me, but the best TV, it's like any character could be written off in any episode just because that's the kind of show it is,
Mhm.
I love that, watching The Sopranos and Oz and Deadwood. It's like, you don't know. It's a very kind of desperate drama themed, series of shows.
No,
And that's like a high drama sort of thing, and like I know that's part of the reason why like The Walking Dead, right, is still going on or something.
no, I got no. It's
It finally ended
Oh.
like a few
Oh
months
yeah,
ago.
that's right. Yeah, it
Finally.
finally ended.
Like
They got rid
7
of all
years
the
after where it should have ended.
Yeah.
And I just
Yeah.
want to, I just want to say to Duke, no, I'm not Romani, but I have sung Gypsy by my goddess Stevie Nicks, so that's as close to I get to Gypsy. Anytime I can drop
I
Stevie Nicks in the conversation, I'm there.
I saw Gypsy on Broadway, and that's the closest I got to Gypsy. So
I saw the movie. It was terrible. Won Best Picture.
No, it did not win Best
Well,
Picture. What
It
are you talking
didn't.
about?
Natalie Wood didn't win.
No,
sorry.
no.
Okay.
my
it didn't.
consensus on this is like I
Oh,
don't
Gigi.
think
I'm
enough-
thinking of
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Gigi.
you're thinking
Sorry.
of Gigi,
My bad.
not Gypsy.
My bad, guys. I am talking out of my ass.
Why do you confuse the two?
Well, look, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up with our closer tonight. We're going to talk about the absolute death of the MCU. Is it finally over? Are we finally done? Let's give you guys a little context of how we got to this point. Guardians of the Galaxy came out this weekend. The numbers are officially out. It only did 115 domestically, which is only about 10 million more than Ant-Man 3 did. But it did perform better overseas than Ant-Man 3 did. So as of right now, as of this writing, unless they get a major second, third week boom, you're looking at a film that's probably going to finish somewhere about, let's say, 525 to 530 worldwide. Now, because the production budget of this movie is $250 by itself, $250 million by itself, you're looking at a break-even point that's probably going to be somewhere near $700 million for this film. So if it only hits about 525, 530, you're looking at a whole loss of about what, $160 million, some probably even more. So this is where we're at here with the MCU, and now there's conspiracy theories out there. And let's do a little conspiracy here. There's conspiracy theories out there that Disney is actually rooting for the writer's strike, because so they can use the writer's strike as an excuse to basically throw away all of the future MCU projects that they have on tap right now, so they can go in a completely different direction. That way they can blame the writer's strike and not the fact that all these movies are bombing, because that's not something you want to tell your shareholders. But Marvel's Blade, which has already gone through so many production disasters before this film has even gotten started yet. They're going to be pausing due to the writer's strike. This is supposed to be an exclusive here. But going back here just real quick with Blade movie, I think the original director left the project because he didn't like the direction that the film wanted to, the Marvel Studios wanted to go with the film. So he left. Then the star here, I keep saying the name,
Mahershala Ali.
yeah,
Yeah,
if his name was Bob, it'd be easier to pronounce. But yeah, he's been upset about the creative decisions behind the film. There's been talks about they want to replace him with a female Blade, so they're basically just using him to sell tickets so they can get their female hero in. And now all of a sudden, writer's strike hits. Right. So here's the story: Marvel Studios is shutting down pre-production of his vampire thriller, which is set to start filming in Atlanta next month. The feature project was supposed to come out in 2024, which has been paused once before. Like I said, the cast and the crew members are being notified this afternoon that the filming will not take place until the strike is over. They don't know exactly when this is going to happen, but an insider told them that time simply ran out. The studio will restart production once the strike is over. Since the strike began on Tuesday, the biggest impact has so far been Saturday Night Live, shows like Showtime's Billions and other shows. There's been videos I'm pretty sure you guys have seen all over Twitter at the moment about the celebrities talking about the writer's strike. Like I said, I don't care. In all honesty, at this point, none of these shows or movies are any good. So you guys want to strike as long as humanly possible. As far as the Marvel Studios go, they're supposed to be filming Captain America's New World Order, which may get a new title for what I've heard. Some rumors that one might be changing their name before its next release. Agatha, Covenant of Chaos is also shooting right now, but it's important to note that all of the future Disney Plus projects, with the exception of Secret Invasion with Samuel L. Jackson, have been canceled, and surprisingly, they're still moving forward with this one. We'll figure out where that one goes. Deadpool 3 is expected to go on cameras later this month in London. They still got the Thunderbolts coming up. It's still on track. And then, of course, they're supposed to be finally announcing the Fantastic Four casting decisions here for the next couple of months or so, even though that one's supposed to come out, I think, 2025 at the moment. But
They already announced Adam Driver.
well, I mean, I'm not sure if that was official yet or that's just been what's been swirling on the internet. But the rumor is that they're holding production of this one. It's been a mess behind the scenes. They'll probably use that as an excuse. I've heard people argue that this film is not even going to come out. Like they're just going to bail on this project altogether because it's a mess. And here's the problem with the MCU: they're spending entirely too much money on these films as far as production and marketing goes. They're not making the money that they were making 5-10 years ago. These aren't guaranteed billion-dollar films anymore. So unless you find a way to start making these movies on a production budget of like $100 million and stop spending 250, 300 million on every film, you're not going to make any money with this stuff. And if you look at your upcoming films, like I said, Blade, Captain America 4, and the Thunderbolts is your 2024 film with the Marvels coming out later this year, no one's going to pony up any money to watch any of these films. So I don't know what the future is for the MCU at this point, but it doesn't exactly look good. Rob, you get forced to see a lot of these movies. I'll start off with you. What do you think about the death of the MCU and the state of Blade after all this time?
Yeah, I said it in the chat. They before they were shut down, they hired Nick Pizzolatto, who is the creator of True Detective. He's a very good screenwriter. They hired Mia Goth, who I like a lot, certainly with her performances over the last couple years. And so I was like, okay, I'm actually interested in checking this out. But it's an MCU product, and I don't know how much. I don't know how much it would have made a difference because of the guardrails that exist, with that company. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the MCU crashing and burning with terrible creative decisions. Because look, even their fans are getting sick and tired of the stuff that's being produced, the stuff that's being released into theaters. Even the Disney Plus stuff seems to kind of be lackluster, mediocre. But again, I can't speak to that directly. I haven't watched any Disney Plus shows. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Now, there are arguments out there to say, well, what's going to replace it? There's going to be a huge a vacuum, and nature hates a vacuum kind of thing. And it's like, good. So then Hollywood will be forced to invest in good screenwriting, good filmmakers, and try to get people into the theater to see things worth checking out, giving people something that's worth their time and money. It's been a long time since that was the case. Tom Cruise kind of kicked it off last year, and we saw how great Top Gun Maverick was. I wasn't even a fan of the movie, but to not give him credit for kind of revitalizing the industry after COVID and, basically some terrible business decisions by Hollywood in general. So I'm looking forward to the Mission Impossible movie. That's probably the next movie I'm going to check out, or I'm looking forward to checking out. But yeah, the MCU is a tire fire, and I'm glad it's hopefully finally dying. Last thing here, if they want to save it, the Fantastic Four. Are you gonna have Doctor Doom? Are you gonna are you going to?
You're going to get a female thing.
Yeah. So again, it's just like doubling down on awful creative decision making, and I think it's over.
Let me ask Rick this one question here, because Doba Fett brings up a good question here. If you didn't heard the update on Jonathan Majors, is that if he's convicted of his crime in New York, he's looking at about a year in jail, that he's supposed to be due for trial in June. So they're moving forward with this whole thing. And then, of course, his attorney came out with the statement blaming the racist justice system for the fact that he hasn't been cleared yet, which pretty much tells me, yeah, you did it. Like, I was giving you the benefit of the doubt for a while, but if that's you went from having, hey, we got this smoking gun evidence and she's going to exonerate him and all this is going to go away, to now, oh, the system is racist. Well, you're guilty. You pretty much played your hand there. Like, this whole thing is just a farce. But Rick, what do you think about the death of the MCU?
Contrary to popular belief, I don't think well, no, that's not true. I do delight in it, but not because I dislike Marvel. Well, no, I guess I do dislike Marvel films, almost all of them. Honestly, I don't have enough interest to follow along. I think the problem that they had is that they really thought people were going to follow them past Endgame and go and delve into the shows and then watch the movies as well. No, I think for many people, Endgame literally was the Endgame, and maybe it would have survived if they had done a movie maybe once every 2 or 3 years, kind of like a Bond film. Like
Yeah.
that was done what it's not done continuously. You don't have the adventures of Moneypenny, and you don't have the early years and all of this. You just kind of make a Bond movie, release it, work on the next one, and then just go forward. That they could have
I
done
don't even
that.
think, just for the record, I don't even think like the phase one and like the phase two era of like the MCU was churning out this many movies in the time period that they're doing now. Where now it's been normal that, hey, we're gonna give you 3 or 4 movies every single year, and on
Yes.
top of like the 3 or 4 Disney Plus shows you now have to watch to follow what's going on the movies as well.
They
Phase
they
one
um
took
they, they,
5 movies in 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, they glutted what is it? They glutted the market. They just overwhelm people with the product, and it's having a lesser and lesser return. Guardians of the Galaxy, that would have been the big film because it's very it managed to be very popular with a lot of people. It has Chris Pratt, who's arguably one of the bigger stars uh, that we have around. At least it's a more of a marketable one, and it had a very soft opening. 115 million here, and I think
Hmm.
the lowest projection was 120, so it fell below the lowest projections, despite what other people have been saying online about, oh, it's a big hit, and going to international markets. Watch what happens. I keep saying, watch what happens in week two. What is going to be the drop, and watch what happens when Fast 10 comes out. If it doesn't, it's not going to be a challenge. This is the thing. We have a Marvel movie that is not going to challenge the Fast and Furious franchise for dominance.
Yeah.
And if the second week drop is is much larger than people think. I don't know. I have no real idea of what the drop will be. But if it drops very fast, and it's going to drop even more
I
with
mean, the
Fast 10.
average drop for a second week for these films over the last couple of years has been at least 60%, at
Yeah,
least.
yeah. So anything more than that, it's going to be pretty much a disaster. Add to that the Marvels. That's coming up in November. There's not an enthusiasm. I mean, not a lot of people liked Captain Marvel for a variety of reasons. Nobody's really invested in Captain Rambeau and Kamala Khan. We really, if you watch the show, maybe, but you're going to have to introduce her. Then they're going to follow. They're going to be following Dune Part Two. That's going to be a big film, and then it's going to be sandwiched. I always keep saying it's going to be sandwiched between Dune Part Two and the Hunger Games prequel. Those two films, they're going to pretty much demolish it. There's not that big of an interest in the Marvels. So this is what's going to happen if the Marvels opens at number two, if it doesn't manage to defeat Dune, yeah, just close up the shop. Just close up shop and try to end it, in a dignified manner. As for Jonathan Majors, yeah, again, you could write him off. You could literally write him off and create another character. Or maybe you'll have the High Inquisitor, the High Revolutionary Incinerary, whatever the thing was called.
High
You could have him.
evolutionary.
Yes, High Evolutionary be the new Kang the Conqueror. I don't know,
He's
but
not
they should
that
really
top
just
tier.
give up. They should just give up, uh, quit while they're behind, and just close up shop. That's my one recommendation. You can't keep sinking money into these losing projects. They're not profitable. I mean, not profitable enough to justify keeping them around. Even I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy would have been the big film. Would have been the big film. Ant Man, you could say, oh well, he's not that well known, despite I don't know why. The Marvels, same thing. Guardians would have been the big film. It's not the big film. It was only big because it had very little competition. Uh, uh, I, there's just there's nothing to hold on. The fans aren't going to it. They'll go watch it, and then that's it. it's time. It's time to retire. It's time for these adults to move on. And I would just recommend, if you want to fill that vacuum, bring back Merchant Ivory Productions. I'm sure we need a remake of A Room with a View. That's all. That's all I'm going to add to that.
Yeah.
I just looked up the trailer for the Marvels, and right now the like to dislike ratio is hilarious. Over 500K likes and over 700K dislikes.
There are a lot of
Oh
people who
yeah,
don't like the Beastie Boys, I guess.
they're always getting ratioed now. Disney and Marvel
Yeah.
channels are getting ratioed on a daily basis. Um, my whole take on this, my very first YouTube video when I started this whole shit is called "The Death of the MCU." My first video and the death of the MCU, because I called this shit 2 years or fucking 4 years ago, almost 2018 or 2019 when I started. That this shit was only going to go downhill. It was going to die because it was poisoned by the identity politics, thanks to Brie Larson and Captain Marvel. Not to mention, they have the perfect formula to fix or to actually do a clean slate with the MCU, because they started the Incursion arc with the multiverse. The Incursion arc is the perfect arc in the comics to actually restart the whole damn thing. And they have the character already introduced in the MCU to fix the Incursion arc, which is Adam Warlock. Bring in Doctor Doom for Fantastic Four. There you go. You have the potential to do it. Now, does that mean that I think they should do it? No, because they all fucking suck at this point. As far as I'm concerned, the MCU ended with Endgame. That's how it is. That's why I'm only going that far with my Infinity Saga Sundays. But as for Blade, I'm going to quote the real Blade here. Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill. And that is Marvel. They are always trying to do that, and they are failing every damn time. I'm just waiting for the freaking coup de grace. And I'm relishing, absolutely loving the fact that the MCU is in decline. Because I just got into it with a bunch of dumbasses on freaking Facebook. It's like, so how badly is the Marvels going to flop? It's like, I'm going to wish it does flop, but I am not blind to the fact that what happened the last time people said they were going to boycott the Brie Larson film from Marvel. Well, Rotten Tomatoes ended up changing out their whole damn website to protect it. Disney freaking allegedly, I will say allegedly, stuffed or bought a bunch of tickets and left empty seats in theaters, allegedly. And so many other freaking things to make sure that movie made $1 billion. It's like that movie would have made $1 billion on its own if Brie Larson hadn't opened her fucking mouth like a goddamn twat. Because honestly, every time she does open her mouth, people freaking fall asleep.
I'm sorry. Are you asking an intersectional feminist white woman to shut up?
Yes. I'm
You
telling
know,
her,
it's
shut the fuck
against
up
their
because
nature.
a cartoon
As
plank
she
would
should.
have better range than she does. Ed
Yeah,
and
she's
Nettie,
not
I'm looking
great.
at you.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy that back when she was casted to play Captain Marvel, I never really watched anything Brie Larson, but I looked up, her achievements, and that was
Mhm.
back when I was rather favorable of Marvel. I'm like, oh, they casted an Academy Award-winning actress to play this character. I'm open to seeing what she brings to the table and how Captain Marvel would end up being. Even though at the time when I was buying comics for Captain Marvel, they were fucking garbage. Like straight up just hot fucking crusty ass. That's how bad Captain Marvel comics are. Captain Marvel is one of the proprietors of making me quit buying comic books. Thank you so much, because the amount of money I would have wasted continuing down that line in hopes of coming across some good reading material, it would have been an enormous, gigantic waste. So on that front,
Cassie,
Thank you.
you gotta
Captain Marvel
say thank
shit.
you very much. You gotta say it like 3. Come on.
A quick little reminder: Brie Larson was in 2 things back in like the early 2000s that I completely forgot she was ever in. That's kind of just how out of sight, out of mind she's been. She was on a show. I don't know if anyone even remembers this. So long ago, it was a show called Raising Dad on the WB, like back in like the early 2000s. It had like Bob Saget and like Kat Dennings was on it. She played apparently the younger sister on the show, and I like to be reminded that that was her in the first place. Then she also had another Disney Channel movie, like one of those original movies called Right on Track. Completely forgot she was ever in that movie. I think I was doing a retrospect like a few years ago. I had to be reminded that she was the other girl in the film. So she's been around
That's
for a
where I
while.
knew her from.
Well, not only that, if I may, just one final thing here. I was actually, when Infinity War ended, before they announced Brie Larson, I was actually excited about Captain Marvel coming in because I knew her power set. I knew what her powers were, how she could absorb energy. And it's like, okay, they're bringing in a very big gun. Now, yes, her comics suck, but the power set of the character is actually quite impressive, to be completely honest. But once Brie Larson was cast, it's like, okay, who's this woman? All right, well, let's give it a chance. Then she started to open her mouth. That's when she Kevin Feige should have adhered to his original formula, not to allow activism in his films. He actually said that. I cannot remember where the interview was, but he said, we don't want activism in the films because it's inherently divisive.
Then he hired Victoria Alonso.
Well, yeah. He also Brie Larson comes in and says, I want to make this a feminist and strong female movie. It's like, Kevin Feige, stay strong. Oh, fuck, dude. You just let her get on her knees. You dumb fuck.
It's like they thought that this is pretty sure this is their thinking. They thought that the MCU brand was so strong that them moving the franchise in that direction wasn't going to hurt it, because the people are not going to stop watching superhero movies. So it's like, we can do whatever we want now. Now they're realizing, oh yeah, we actually can't do whatever we want now, because now people aren't showing up to the movie theaters anymore.
It's crazy because Blade is arguably the best thing that could possibly come out of current MCU, because everything else is tokenized fucking female characters that nobody, quite frankly, gives a fuck about. And with Blade,
it's PG-13. You can't do an anti-hero with PG-13.
No, you're completely right, and that's
Christopher Nolan did. You know,
who did?
Christopher Nolan did. You know, the Dark Knight trilogy. You know.
Yeah,
he did it in a way that actually worked.
Right.
Because Batman killed but didn't kill.
Yeah, and the shame is, like, Blade should be an easy thing to get right. It's so simplistic in nature of how to make Blade interesting, and it really should almost write itself. I mean, we do have a great depiction of Blade to draw from, that came out, 22 years ago, 23.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, I mean, we've seen it in action, and, it would be such a huge draw. And probably refreshing, honestly speaking, for the MCU. And it's just amazing how they managed to fumble this in every step of pre-production. And the fact that I've seen it, cross so many, missteps, probably goes to say, maybe they are going to, use this whole writing thing as an excuse to write it off, because even Marshall Ali, I'm hearing, ain't about this fucking shit in regards to, especially if they're serious about quickly transitioning to Blade's daughter over Blade. What a fuck you that would be to fans, and I'm sure he obviously didn't sign up for that.
One of the not spoilers, but potential rumors that we had floating around here, I think it was on Sunday, that Mia Goth, who we announced earlier was going to be in the film, I guess they want her to play the main villain, which would make sense if you do plan on making Blade a female at some point of that movie. So yeah, maybe that's, I'm not saying it's an indication, but with everything else going on with the MCU right now, it's probably not good news, especially with the whole casting about the Thing. thing, because you notice that they've been like suddenly announcing all these other casting decisions except for The Thing, because they know that announcement is not going to go over very well
Well,
when it
look,
turns out.
you've not had a successful adaptation of Fantastic Four. Though to be fair, I actually liked Rise of the Silver Surfer, but
Yeah.
you've not had a good adaptation that's liked by almost everyone. And then you decide somehow that having a female Thing is going to be a good idea. I refuse to believe that that's a real story. I still
Have
Yeah.
they
think that
confirmed that though, or
yeah,
is that still just a rumor?
Well,
I think
I mean, it's not a rumor. That the rumor was that they had given the role to Mila
Mila
Kunis. That
Kunis.
was the rumor, but they've pretty much confirmed that they are looking at some female actresses to possibly play a female Thing. So the female thing hasn't been debunked. It's just they haven't given it to Mila Kunis at this moment. So
I still find it such a ridiculous idea that they're actually going to, that they would not do it, and I think they're just doing it to gin up publicity. It seems so laughable.
They might.
Look, you're not you're going to you've always struggled. You've had a reputation of having the Fantastic Four be almost unfilmable, and you decide, yes, the people who love this series want a female Thing. Oh, it's
They might as well just get Sarah Silverman, because didn't they say they were looking for a Jewish woman to play Thing?
Oh, because he's
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
oh, well, I mean,
I never knew
I
that
mean-
Ben Grimm was Jewish.
Don't you
I-
feel
well,
bad though?
well,
Don't you
I
feel
think
bad for
gender be
actual
damned.
comic fans that they're fucking they're
Of course
literally
they do.
they've never done a successful Fantastic Four,
exactly.
and they're literally pushing out the like, hey, we care about progress, so we're gonna just make the fucking Thing
I
in a way that is like, okay, the traditionally like heroic way, like just tell a fucking good story.
And
It's like
keep
they
in
don't
mind-
want to.
And keep in mind, a lot of people justified Disney buying 24th Century Fox on the basis that they'll finally get a Fantastic Four movie that the way that they've wanted, because they haven't gotten it up to this point.
No.
And now that they're in control of it, they're still going to do a subversive version of the Fantastic Four, regardless. So it's like,
No.
yeah, you're not going to win.
I think in the most recent Fantastic Four, the one that Fidel, my friend, who used to call Fantastic Babies because he thought all of them were way too young to play the part, though they actually were in their 30s. I think there is I think in the Grim Junkyard, you do see a menorah. So I think you do get mentioned that Ben's family is Jewish,
Mhm.
but I don't know why you need a specifically Jewish character. I mean, curiously enough, Helen Mirren has the same problem. There are people who are upset that she's going to play Golda Meir because she's not Jewish. So I don't know if it has to be that specific. I'm not a proponent that only Jewish actors can play Jewish
I'm
roles.
pretty sure I heard some Mark come out here recently saying that gay people should only be played by gay people in movies, and I think Piers Morgan responded to him like, okay, so gay people can't play straight people in movies anymore. Good.
Yeah, it's curious that Ian McKellen says that that's ridiculous. That they should be
Yeah,
able
I
to
was about
play.
to say, didn't Ian McKellen come out against it?
Yeah,
But they're
yeah,
still
that-
pushing it. It doesn't matter how many times you denounce
If
it; they'll still push it anyway.
Look again. If you can cast a black actress to play Anne Boleyn and Cleopatra, I guess you could have a straight actor, or a gay actor, play a straight role. I mean, it's not relevant.
By the way,
Honestly, they should burn down all the movie studios. That's what I vote for. I vote for that course of action.
but the
oppose
idea
arson.
that you have Jewish characters not played by Jewish, actors is sort of like, oh, yeah, we crossed that Rubicon a long time ago, at the start of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah, weren't they all called? Well, no, I'm not going to say that. Never mind.
No,
mind.
but it's like
Never
it's like
mind.
a lot of
yes,
actors who changed
the
their
most
names.
glamorous and attractive people have not tended to be Jewish. It's okay,
Yeah.
and then over time, that's changed too. And there are a lot of Jewish people in movies, so it's like it's one of those sort of funny things that nobody talks about. But
I mean,
it's interesting.
You look at someone like Lauren Bacall. Lauren Bacall, who is Jewish, she was one of the great beauties.
My
of
favorite
her
leading
time.
lady, by the way.
Edward G. Robinson, Melvin Douglas changed
Yep.
his name.
Yep.
You could have, I mean, whether it was right or wrong that they changed their names and had to kind of play more Gentile parts, but nobody questioned that they could. Really, are you going to insist that only a Jewish actor could play Shylock? I don't think you should. I mean,
Well,
why?
it's funny how it's like, yeah, we have to protect the Jewish character in this instance with the thing, but then they've been talking about for like years that, oh yeah, Magneto, we're probably gonna make him a black guy in the next X-Men movie whenever you guys get that one in 5 to 7 years. So apparently it's not
Wait,
that important.
Psylocke is Jewish?
No,
No,
Shylock.
no, no, no.
Shylock from The Merchant of Venice.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. I'm
Shake
sorry.
Not
I
a
was
Jew
like,
eyes.
wait, what the fuck? The character from X-Men, Psylocke, who's an Asian, but
Well,
also a
technically
British
she was
putting in an
originally
Asian
British.
There was
yeah,
a British
they've made a
Asian-
lot of changes with that character.
They did in the comic
and then
books.
they
It's,
made her an
impressive.
American because of Olivia Moon.
Moon. All right, yeah. So, any other last thoughts on this topic before we wrap things up here?
How
Does
much
this
money
mean-
would it take?
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead. I'm gonna go. Okay, how much money would it take to just remaster the old Blade movies and try to like AVR some of the like phrases to like have some continuity maybe with the current MCU?
Oh, it would
I think
take
it would
a
be-
lot to do that. I mean,
Just
Stephen
the
Dorff richly,
original alone, just
beautifully freaking coup de grace the when Stephen Dorff opened his mouth to speak out against the Blade movie, that's when the Blade movie started having trouble, folks. That's not a coincidence, or just a coincidence, rather. Let's just say that. Could have sworn I saw Stephen Dorff running away from Marvel Studios when it was on fire.
Look, if you want to have Blade, instead of having Blade, make a feature film about that one-legged Native American lesbian deaf character, and build a whole film series about her. 'Cause
No.
Rick really, really wants this.
You're really
I do.
obsessed with that one, aren't you?
Yes, you know what? I want this character, Echo. I want her to be the consort to Emperor Shaddam IV in Dune, so we could have the
Okay.
best of all worlds.
I know Rick is joking here, but like when you have the WGA writers out there and like, I'm a disabled writer, and the reason I'm striking is, and it's like, this is why studios don't want to give in to your mans. You've been writing this shit. You've been inserting yourself. Here's the thing, and I said this to my roommate the other day. More people should know not to put themselves in their writing because they're not interesting enough to be heroes in stories. Okay?
Yep.
That literally, you should know enough about yourself and about writing in general to not inject yourself at every possible moment. I can't stress that enough. There's so many writers who have not learned that.
The Writers Guild is literally a win-win for us because it's a bunch of these idiot liberal actors freaking protesting and whatnot, and yet with them doing their strike, they're actually causing woke bullshit to be put on hold. So it's like,
Good.
you guys do realize you're helping us. Thank you. You're idiots.
I have nothing against unions as a union member myself.
That's your
But-
problem.
Sucker.
But I do for the production. I do feel for the people who really do want to work. Building the sets and creating the costumes, sewing the costumes, putting catering services. A film that's canceled or postponed because of a strike or because it's a floundering, it affects more than just the production. I mean, just the people in front of the camera. It affects more the writers themselves. It affects all these ancillary elements, and I do feel bad for them because they do want to work and they deserve to work.
Well, sure, they deserve to work, but here's another question. Don't they support all the woke and evil shit that's been going on in Hollywood?
I don't think. I mean, it's hard to say. Some might do.
If
Some
they do,
might
I don't feel
not.
sorry for them in the least. If
Some
they
might
don't,
do, some
I do
might
feel sorry
not.
for 'em.
I think I don't know if the catering companies really do care if you get your one-legged Native American lesbian mute character, so long as they could get the contract and feed the cast and crew. I really don't think that they care one way or the other. The same with the guys or women who are building the sets, designing the costumes.
Do we
doing
even
everything.
need unions anymore? Let's be very honest about this. Like, this isn't the 1920s anymore. Do we really, really need unions?
They're parasites. And their history is rife with corruption. I'm sorry, but if you know anything about the mob and the union, and I'm sorry, and the trade unions, it's just like you know that it's a collectivist organization that takes and takes and takes, and literally the skilled workers, the good writers, the good directors, the good actors, they don't need a fucking union. You know why? They can negotiate themselves with the company that is choosing to hire them. There's no need for these unions. But it's ingrained in Hollywood. It's part of the framework. It's been this way since forever. So guess what? It's just going to continue on. They'll cave eventually, most likely.
I'm assuming that Joe Esterhazy, I think he was the first screenwriter to earn over $1 million for, was it Showgirls? I'm assuming that he is a union member. It's very difficult to work in a film industry without being a union member. But
yeah, that's
somehow,
how mobs work, Rick. Yes,
but he did
I thought
manage
way
to
about
negotiate.
taxes.
yeah.
He did negotiate a very lucrative contract for one of the worst films, an enjoyably terrible film, I have to admit. Showgirls is an enjoyably terrible film, but he must have negotiated that, and I don't see him really I didn't see him advocate for his fellow union members at the time. I don't know, maybe he did. I don't want to speculate.
These people
But-
pretend that there's some brotherhood. Okay, it's every person for themselves in Hollywood. They don't give a shit about each other. This is why I can't stand it, because at least on some level, a labor union, there's that spirit of, hey, we're all in this together, or whatever. This is not the same thing. These are entitled assholes.
Together.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you with a rant there, but go ahead.
No, it was warranted.
Okay.
Yeah,
I will say, like, unions can have their place if you're in a particular industry that, like, you're susceptible to be taken advantage of, like, and basically worked to death. Like, even those like VFX artists, like, why didn't they strike? You know, I mean, like, so many, like, all those circumstances where like the script isn't ready, they kept asking for redos and they had to change things and stuff. I mean, like, I get why.
You know who needs a union? Chinese workers. You know who doesn't need a union? Female writers. That's who doesn't need a union. So screw them. That's all I gotta say.
And I agree with that. Like, if you look at like my background's in education, if you look at teachers unions, those things are a waste of taxpayer money. Like, and you can see this in if you look at Detroit, you know, there's only like 20% of the class that's graduating, and these union people have over $75,000 salaries coming to them. And that's if they do nothing. They don't have to do anything. It's just given to them. And like a 30, only between 20 and 30% of their students are graduating. You know, what a waste of money.
Yeah, and then every year they ask for a raise. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Well, and see, then they just like, oh, well, we want a raise, you know, or we'll strike, and you hold the kids hostage then. So yeah, teachers unions need to go away. But we're in other areas, there probably are some places.
If there's anyone who deserves to be extorted, it's teachers.
All I can say is homeschool your kids, go private school, go. Yep.
Public education won't improve until we get rid of teachers' unions. There's no other way to look at it.
I don't know how you could say that, because the unions were the teachers' unions was fighting to reopen schools immediately. Don't you remember?
No, I think it was the opposite.
No, that's a new history. That's a new history.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well.
Yeah, that's a stolen version of the history. So you got to remember.
I honestly think, like, I knew they weren't going to fight to get back into the classrooms or anything. So, I'm glad I pulled my kids.
We reached the end point of this show. We're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. So I'm giving everyone a chance to say your piece and tell everyone what you got coming up. So I'm going to go with the man who has nothing to promote, Mr. Rob Motto. What you got?
Yeah, so sorry if I talked a lot tonight. I just got
have
a
a
lot
lot
of
to
energy,
say.
I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for having me. Thanks for listening to my nonsense. I did want to share a few titles from my favorite sci-fi movies here, because I was able to pull up my list. So we've got 2001, A Clockwork Orange, Blade Runner, A Day the Earth Stood Still, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Total Recall, RoboCop, Videodrome, Alien, They Live, Starship Troopers. So that's just kind of off the top of my head. Check out my Twitter. That's at the bottom of the screen. I am watching James Bond movies in May. Just want to try to get more under my belt.
All right, moving over to Cassie. What you got coming up, Cassie?
Well, I literally just dropped a video a few hours ago, just dumping on the failure that is a Saints Row reboot because it never fails. They dug themselves this immense hole, but for some reason the game just won't go away. Mostly because they sold people on a season pass, so they have to put out garbage content in order to justify stealing money from gamers. But we got the Two Real for Feels podcast this Thursday, where we talk about all sorts of entertainment, particularly gaming. There's a lot of gaming to talk about, a lot of crazy things happening in the industry. So definitely tune in there by subscribing to me on Cult Classic Cage on YouTube. I also have a Kick account where Kick is an alternative to Twitch, but with no rules. So if you're into that, go make a Kick account and follow me there, Cult Classic Cage. And if you want to talk to me personally, just hit me up on Twitter, Cult Classic Cage.
All right, Orange, what you got coming up?
Well, I'm Orange Art Reviews. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, and you can also find me on, or I have two profiles on Twitter. I do EU Star Wars stuff on my Valkorian account, where I go over different thoughts of EU lore and other stuff. And I do movie reviews, entertainment news, controversial stuff. I covered the Alec Baldwin situation all the way up until he got away with killing somebody. I'm trying to get more stuff out, but it's been slow going because of medical problems. I have the Infinity Saga Sundays where I'm covering the films of the MCU. We got Avengers coming not this Sunday, but the Sunday after, because this Sunday is Mother's Day. So hug your moms, everybody. They could use it. Other than that, I also do mystery reviews and guest choice reviews where I bring people on and they get to choose the movie, the time, and the date. And it's just going to be a great discussion. The mystery review that I got coming up next Tuesday its hint is the best CGI ever used on a Japanese film. So, yeah.
All right, Johnson, what you got to promote?
Okay, sorry. So I got a Kickstarter this month for a few more weeks. It's my musical superhero that goes after human traffickers in Atlanta. And it's cute. Yep. So, yep, I've been chilling that for a while.
Chill harder.
Where's
All right, Rick, what you got coming up?
Yeah, just my reviews and my GoFundMe. Thank you to everyone who has contributed. I was able to pay at least this month's bill. I'll also be hopefully hearing soon about the job interview, my surprise job interview that I had this week. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to more reviews and next so that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Just reviews. GoFundMe, please help me. But thank you to everyone who has contributed. I'm very appreciative. Thank you.
All right, and then I'll let you guys know what I got coming up. So tomorrow night, I will not be on the Black Pill stream. I will be joining Shagsworth and his team on his YouTube channel tomorrow night. So go subscribe over there and check me out there on tomorrow night. This Friday, we're going to be doing movie night again. This week, we're watching the film Real Men with John Ritter and Jim Belushi. So we'll be talking about that film on Friday night. Monday, I know we got 3 movies that we're reviewing this week. I already forgot the name of mine. I think it's Hypnotic. I think I made Rob do the new Charlie Day movie, and then of course we got Rick watching a movie with a bunch of old women and Jane Fonda again, so it should be fun for him. And then next Tuesday we'll be back here with the Barroom Podcast, and like I said, Chris Gore will be our guest next week. I'm gonna invite some of our guys who did our G4 Tech TV retrospective, which is still up on our YouTube channel and on Rumble as well. So check those out if you guys haven't checked them out already. We're gonna be talking to Chris about a lot of G4 stuff, and should have a fun week next week. Until then, I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to some of you guys here in the chat. try to give you guys as much try as I can here. I know Neil is joining us every single week. Duke is here every single week. Doba Fett, Alex versus Evil, Spencer, Josh finally showed his face here once again. We have Drax the Clown, who was here with us throughout the course of the night. John joined us for a little bit. Bush Pan Down, who was in the chat with us tonight. Make sure I get everyone down here. I think that's about. Oh yeah, we got Vanya, who was here with us tonight. And I think that might have been all. At least I could find up on here. JEC, obviously. Darko, who was here with us for a bit tonight. And Fentaro, who's here. And let me make sure I get everyone. I think that's about it. Falango, Falango just was here with us tonight. I don't want to forget him. And then, Zio Dozer, everyone who was joining us tonight. This guy, obviously, you can't forget this guy right here. And then, we'll see you guys throughout the course of the night. It's been a fun night, quick night, but we got to roll on out of here. So, till then, we will see you guys hopefully on Friday night for our movie night. If not, we'll see you guys next week for Movie Review Ballroom Podcast. We're out of here. Good night. Adios.
Stay humble.